Both players here on our leaderboard, Will in 17th, Tannon in 10th. Both off to great starts with big mana strategies. And I've generally found this matchup to be pretty close. In a ramp mirror, it's your interactive cards are the ones that will cost you. You know, your walking ballistas, your dismembers.
Engineered explosives. Trinket Mage also figures to be a little bit slow in this matchup as well.
And Will starting off on ramp here with Basic Forest into Sakura Tribe Scout. By the look of things, he's got a pretty good setup with some bounce lands and a Pact of Negation to counter a possible turn 3 Karn.
Yeah, that's all good stuff. Being on the play, definitely a benefit in this matchup. And when it comes to answering the turn 1 Sakura Tribe Scout, Tannon just has one dismember in the main, but there we
go. And doing it off a Tron land as well, that's a big win. Now, it looks like Will has picked up, speaking of one-ofs, he's got that Sky Shroud Ranger. It's one of them in the main deck.
For Grace's side of things, the equation changes a bit on turn 2. He does have 3 main deck Walking Ballista.
So this is just the bad version of Sakura Tribe Scout. It does the exact same thing, but you can only do it at sorcery speed.
Right. Yeah, way back, I think Tempest was the original printing of this one, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, and the sorcery speed versus instant speed can matter in this matchup. One way he defends against turn 3 Karn is by leaving up a Tribe Scout, and when they try to exile your land, you pick it up with another bounce land. Sky Shroud Ranger can't do that.
Right. Yeah, defense against Karn, also things like Ghost Quarter in certain spots. That's why you see that 4-to-1 split.
Yeah.
The 4 copies is better.
Yeah, the drop-off's actually pretty big, which is why a lot of players don't even reach for this card. You know, there's matchups like Storm, where Bazooka Bug's a great card. This doesn't really do anything with it.
Yeah, it's largely that this card is filling in for a different card that players decided they shouldn't have been playing in the first place, that being Explorer.
Yeah, it's that spot. Explorers, we've seen Adventurous Impulse. You know, people kind of trying to figure out that last part of the ramp equation.
And Pulliam definitely been happy with this list. Certainly wasn't complaining about his RPTQ win.
Not at all. See, Trinket Mage here from Pulliam. He's deciding to play that one over a copy of Azusa in his hand.
Azusa is a little bit better when you can immediately start dropping some untapped bounce lands.
Yeah, it might be the Ranger already gives him the ability to put most of his lands into play. The Azusa's not really needed.
Yes, that also makes sense.
So finds Amulet of Vigor, Cavern of Souls, casts the Amulet, says go. Last 2 cards are Azusa and Pact of Negation, which is both are pretty awkward on this board.
Yeah, he really wants to just produce a bounce land from the top of the deck.
Yeah, that'll help. I mean, he's missing 2 pieces.
Yeah, things are just not great in the holdings there.
Yeah, he doesn't have mana 6. He doesn't have the Titan yet. And we'll see if Tannon can punish him for it. 2 Tron pieces and an Expedition map in play. And it looks like he'll use that map to find the 3rd Tron piece. So we're a turn off on a payoff card?
Yes. Once you set up, when you lay up Tron, when you get Tron by cracking map, then it can be something much more powerful on the following turn. You could have something like second Urza's Tower into Ulamog on the 4th turn of the game.
Yeah. That'll put a lot of pressure on Will to have, even a Resolved Titan can lose to that. And certainly if Will doesn't make the Titan next turn, if Ulamog eats 2 of his lands, there's not going to be much coming back from it.
Right. And I like that Tannon just kind of sorcery speeded that Expedition map, and he's cracking this Chromatic Star here. He kind of wants to get a Walking Ballista to shoot this Ranger off of the table. It's not always going to be worth a ton of value in this situation, but that's a small incremental play. He has something else here, though, where you're Sylvan Scrying, likely finding that 2nd tower. Or actually, this is a 5-piece interaction here.
Well, I think it's Sanctum of Ugin he finds, and I think he has a Karn in hand, so he's looking to next turn Karn crack, and then maybe hope to make Ulamog the following turn.
Yeah, if he already has the tower, then this will tie that all together.
Yeah, a pretty nice sequence that'll be hard for William to defend.
And as we were talking about before, Will kind of needed 2 things at the top of his deck. He found one of them. There's a Gruul Turf, but he can't really do anything with it right now.
Here's the bounce land, and Will make Azusa. Now, if he holds the bounce land in his hand with all these extra land drops, he probably can make a Titan regardless of what is exiled. It's another situation, though, where that sorcery speed on Sky Shroud Ranger matters. So if it was a Sakura Tribe Scout, Will could cast this Pact of Negation, and an upkeep, he could use a Tribe Scout to untap the Simic Growth Chamber and pay double blue. But because Azusa only plays lands during your turn and Sky Shard Ranger is a sorcery, he can't cast the Pact because he can't pay for it in upkeep.
Right.
It's a small difference, but it might be the difference between winning and losing here.
It certainly adds up, and this is a fine one for Tannon. Not a huge payoff in terms of winning the game, but he's going to clean this board right up with that Oblivion Stone.
And that's a big win for Tannon. So he uses the extra mana to make Relic of Progenitus. Will loses the whole board here as he exiles away to the Relic of Progenitus. Pick up for the turn was Azusa.
Okay, that's fine. It was a little bit interesting dynamic there with the whole board being swept up and the bounce land in hand there, where he could have left himself off of a Primeval Titan if that was the top deck.
Right, if that was the top card of his deck, he would have wished that bounce land was in play.
Right.
Absolutely.
I'm not calling it a mistake, though. The thing about Tron, once they get to producing 10 mana in one turn, the range of things that they can do is very wide.
Yeah, he played a line that was really good against Karn, and less good against O-Stone.
Right. And certainly in this matchup, Oblivion Stone is on the lower tier of payoff cards for Tron that matter here.
Back to Tannon, though, we go. Drew another copy of Oblivion Stone for the turn. What we don't know is if he has a payoff yet. He certainly seems to have control of this board.
Right. We saw him previously find that Sanctum. If he just has one kind of mopey payoff here, it makes enough sense just kind of go to work with that, cast whatever 7-mana spell he has, Sanctum up one that he believes to be better.
Looks like here the payoff was in hand. So Sanctum will crack Relic of Progenitus, and the graveyards will leave. Tannon draws, casts Karn, cracks Sanctum, finding Ulamog. Things are humming along.
This 1-2 punch does not leave many games on the table.
And immediately he goes for the Simic Growth Chamber, trying to keep Will off that 6 mana.
And based off the texture of the game, I'm sure Tannon knows that Will is looking for multiple things. Denying that mana likely is going to make it all that much harder for Will to do anything here.
And he's not going to have anything to do. Picks up the cards, and game 1 goes over to Tannon Grace.
Despite being on the draw in a matchup that's about making mana faster. That Dismember on turn 1, pretty clutch. Of course, Will's draw not really coming together in the best way.
Yeah, I mean, right when you keep in these ramp mirrors, there's 3 pieces to each side. There's ramp, there's lands, and there's payoffs. Will kept a hand without a payoff, and he never found a Primeval Titan.
Yep. It was a combination of kind of that. Tannon had some relevant roadblocks as well, and now we're going to game 2. All
right, so game 2 will start on Will Pulliam's side as he's down. 3 copies of Spell Pierce, 3 Abrades, 2 Termod's Crypts, 2 Engineered Explosives, and Academy Ruins. That's been a recent addition for the RPTQ. They started playing that one. Reclamation Sage, Rurik Thar, Hornet Queen, and Ramanap Excavator.
Yeah, so in this matchup, what's happening here? You're trying to stop the Tron player from doing their thing first. That can either mean doing your thing faster or trying to disrupt them. Now, this sideboard does not help in the terms of doing your thing faster front. So you're going to reach for some small things. Spell Pierce is actually pretty reasonable in the matchup. From Amulet Titan, I haven't played this particular Spell Pierce deck, but it makes sense to me. It lines up against a lot of what the Tron deck does.
Specifically, Karn is like, if you can manage to hit one with a Spell Pierce, it's a huge win. You can't hit their baubles too often because your deck's light on turn 1 blue mana.
Right.
But if you snag a Karn, that's winning versus losing.
Yes, absolutely. And even on some particular turns. In this matchup, Oblivion Stone is going to be a little bit tougher to meaningfully Spell Pierce, but sometimes on the play, you can hit an Expedition map.
Yeah. Outside of that, those are the cards I'm sure he'll be reaching toward. What does he have in the main deck to get rid of?
So frequently when it comes to the Amulet Titan deck, the first thing you're looking at is trimming some lands. Bajuka Bog does not seem like it amounts to too much here. Not too interested in Colony Guardian and Radiant Fountain. So you have a few lands that it makes sense to get a little bit off. And when I'm looking at the main deck here, one of the lands I noticed that actually is quite good is that Will has the main deck Ghost Quarter. That one's staying in, and I'm interested in bringing in possibly the Ramanap Excavator to pair with that to try to fight the Tron battle.
Yeah, I'm actually really interested in that. Remember, this is a 4 Azusa deck, so we've oftentimes, some things we'll see at a Green-White Company, that Azusa, Ramanap Excavator, Ghost Quarter, trio, it's pretty big game if you can get it together.
Yes, yeah, not only do you push the Tron deck off of assembling their Tron, but they run out of basics kind of quick.
Yeah, so I expect those. Now, on the mono-green Tron side, Tannon sideboard is 3 Nature's Claim, 3 Thragtusk, 3 Thought-Knot Seer, 2 Surgical Extraction, 2 Spatial Contortion, a Grafdigger's Cage, and a Warping Whale. A lot of these interact in some ways, but he's got a lot of cards to cut.
Yeah, so there's some cards in here that are fine. I don't mind so much Thought-Knot Seer against particular draws. It's a lot worse when you're on the draw. But you saw there, a big story of Game 1 was that Will did not have payoff left over. And there's hands like that if there were one payoff spell, the Thought-Knot Seer can just kind of open up like that.
For sure. Either way, he's not ever killing the Thought-Knot Seer, so the card's pretty free.
Yeah, just kind of getting that 4/4 Thoughtseize effect. You might see what you frequently see from a Tron player if you're expecting your opponents to be pretty good at Ghost Quartering you, which the Amulet Titan deck is above average at Ghost Quartering for sure, because Talaria West, they have relatively high access to that sort of effect. Reaching for things like Thragtusk just as a castable payoff is fine, even though the card itself is not very good in the matchup. You can fight over amulets as well. You can reach for some Nature's Claims, and that one's going to be pretty impactful in slowing a lot of Will's draws down.
I'm really interested in seeing how Tannon approaches the matchup. I can see arguments for just about everything in this sideboard. He could also go to Spatial Contortions and Warping Whales to fight over those Tribe Scouts, or even Surgical Extractions to try to stop a Ghost Quarter or a Talaria West. I don't know if he can go for all 14 of them. He doesn't have that many spots, but he can pick his battles. There's a lot of stuff to cut.
Yeah, definitely. This is a matchup where you look at the various haymakers, you kind of ask yourself which are the best ones in a matchup. In this matchup, the Karn Liberated kind of is the best one here. The Ulamog's are also quite powerful. Stuff like Wormcoil Engine is quite a bit mopier.
Like, Ugin's probably just getting cut here.
Yeah, you saw a situation where Oblivion Stone was quite good in Game 1, but Ugin wouldn't have hit the Amulet, which does matter in a lot of the games.
Over on StarCityGames.com, all month long, we are running our holiday sale. This is pretty much our biggest sale of the year. We have our lowest prices, and things progressively get added as we make our way through the month. So head on over to StarCityGames.com/holiday sale to check it out. This goes all the way through the holiday season and ends on January 7th.
Oh yeah, there's going to be all kinds of sales going on there. Definitely keep refreshing the page from day to day as we progress through the holiday sale.
Will back on the play here for game number 2. Had some relevant pieces, a 1-mana creature and a backup 1-mana creature. Just didn't find his payoff.
Right. It was a fine assortment of the Phase 1 cards, but nothing available for the Titan stage of the game.
I think it kind of shows where interaction is, not great here. Pact of Negation is among his better interactive spells, but in this situation, it was still just worse than a land.
Right. Hey, you saw it just sat in the hand. Didn't do anything.
Yeah, even if he had found the second blue for it, it wouldn't have made much of a difference. He'd have countered the first O-Stone, maybe? First
Right.
at Karn.
Yeah, so you can go for the O-Stone or the Karn. The Karn still would trigger the Sanctum. The
Yeah.
Ulamog would be forthcoming, and it would end the game all the same, even without the Karn's help.
Yeah, I find in this matchup, Pact of Negation from the Amulet side buys you exactly 1 turn, which doesn't sound like much. When you're out in front and make a Primeval Titan, finding that blue Pact, 1 turn is all you need. But the idea that you'll control the Tron opponent is a pretty big ask.
Right. Yeah, when you think about Pact of Negation, it's such a negative tempo card. Right away, if you're ahead on board, you can see some opportunity there. If you have a lot of mana to play with, you can even do something on your following turn. But in a lot of situations, paying 5 mana on your own turn just to cover your Pact, and then letting the Tron player untap with their 12, 15 mana,
Yeah.
things can go really bad really quick.
You're trading 5 of your mana for Tron, and it's
a bad deal.
a bad deal. Tannon Grace on 6 cards, keeping and scrying to the bottom. And from the get-go, we see an Amulet start here from Will. We might see some sparks fly. We got Bounce Land Azusa on turn 2. This could be pretty nice.
Yeah, this will be reminiscent of the more powerful version of the deck if we see the right combination.
Yeah, because he doesn't play Explorer anymore, there isn't a turn 2 win line. The decks with Explorer could go Azusa into Explorer and possibly win in these situations. Plays Boros Garrison, picks it up to itself to make 3 mana, casts Azusa, 2 land drops remaining. Forest will be the first one. And then he passes.
Looks like the Garrison might be the only land left over, but even
Exactly.
with that being the case, with these 2 forests, you can still get to Primeval Titan next turn.
It does mean if Tannon has something like Spatial Contortion or Warping Whale, it's going to do some damage, and that's exactly what he has.
That was timely.
If Will, I believe a card in his hand, if he had something like Sakura Tribe Scout in hand, he is going to get punished for not making it that turn.
Yeah, it's kind of left a green mana on the table there.
Well, I mean, it would give him all 6 mana this turn.
Right.
Daniel Byington, please report to side event registration.
And there wouldn't be a lot of concern. The big fear, if you had that, was like, on that turn, there's only going to be one answer for one creature from Grace. That's just the way the mana shakes up. So I don't think there's really much you're playing around.
I don't believe he has one, so it looks like we're looking at Summoner's Pact, Pact of Negation, and a couple of Primeval Titans. Or a couple of, yeah. Might be 2 Summoner's Pacts, but it's a lot of payoff. And if that's the case, what Will is debating here is whether or not pacting for Azusa makes sense. Mm-hmm. It's if you pact for Azusa.
A thing about that line with the 1 land in hand, it means you have to commit the Garrison to the table. So you get Azusa online, and then you'll have to pay 4 next turn, and then you're looking for a bounce land from your deck, whereas previously you kind of had the mana rolled up for a Primeval Titan with the Azusa online.
The way I kind of think about this in Amulet is, if you do that line, you're committing to mediocrity in a way. You're saying, I'm going to make Azusa this turn, I'm going to do nothing next turn, I'm going to say go.
You don't got to tell me about committing to mediocrity.
Right. So like the other thing you can do is what Will's doing is you don't pact for Azusa and you hope the top of your deck delivers because you don't want to lock yourself into a line that you think's going to lose. And that's what that Azusa play would be.
Right.
Now he might end up, because he didn't cast anything, he might just like draw 2 more Primeval Titans and play nothing, and then that stinks.
The line he chose here was a little precarious. You're in a situation where Grace has shown you that he's making Tron lands. You could have just gotten your Boros Garrison Karn there, and then nothing's really going on, but
you probably can't beat that.
Your pact can't beat that either. So it's kind of a situation where you're just really in a lot of trouble no matter what you do with that turn.
And a big pickup for Will is a copy of Simic Growth Chamber. You get him up to 5 mana this turn. It's real close. He's got some choices here. If he wants that blue mana this turn, he has a Spell Pierce. But then he'll be setting back his Titan by a turn.
He has Summoner's Pact Titan, right? I believe those are cards in hand still.
Yeah.
So
okay, he can get to 6. Yep.
Off of the Pact.
Yeah, with an Amulet in play, pacting for Azusa is a +1 mana play. So he's at 5. You think pacting for Azusa, that will get you to 6. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're going to see here.
Right.
So Bounce Line, you're right. Simic Growth Chamber makes blue-green and picks itself up. And we are underway.
And you want to be careful with this turn because you have to think about what your full range of your turn is and what Tannon's next turn looks like. Against a Tron deck, there's situations where Tannon's next turn is just Tron land, Urza's Tower #2, cast Ulamog, go for your green sources. You have to shore up being able to pay for Summoner's Pact with this line.
Right. So what you want to, so you'd be thinking, what if there is a Karn? What if there is a Spatial Contortion?
Right.
So leaving up the blue, he's going to make Azusa. This allows him to still hold up that Spell Pierce if it's necessary here. Mm-hmm. Blue's floating, makes Azusa. 2 more land drops remaining from Will. And that black die is how many lands he's played this turn. It's not a -1 counter.
See if maybe Pulliam could win the Invitational this week and be the lands played this turn counter.
And here is Spatial Contortion. So Will can Spell Pierce here. It means his Titan won't be coming online.
Yeah, he was set up with exactly enough mana to Azusa plus Titan.
And this is a pretty big loss here because Will also will have to pay for his Pact. Mm-hmm. So he Spell Pierces, untaps the Growth Chamber. Now what I do like is that he can play around. Now he's deciding what to pick up.
Yeah, so he's on the hook for 2 green mana and 2 additional mana on his next upkeep.
Yeah,
He's also in a situation where he wants to have a bounce land in his hand.
So if he picks up the Growth Chamber and then makes that Forest from his hand, and Tannon has nothing, Will can make it to pay and make Titan next turn. It's a lot to ask for Tannon to have nothing here, but...
I mean, the alternative seems like not doing enough to present lethal on the way back or to present a reasonable game plan on the way back. So I think that you probably just have to take that risk.
Yeah, he makes the 2 mana, picks up the Growth Chamber, makes Forest, and passes. That's exactly the line he's on. It does mean if Tannon has a Karn here, Will's dead.
Yeah, we didn't see it on 3, but the deck's a little bit better at producing it on the 4th turn. You can do something like make additional mana sources, which could either lead to just casting Ulamog or starting to cast Ancient Stirrings looking for a Karn.
Well, here's
or
Karn.
How about this?
If Tannon see what he gets rid of Boros Garrison, and that's going to be game. Will doesn't have mana to pay for the Pact. And Tannon Grace 2-0 is your winner, and he improves to 3-0.
Yeah, and this is going to be the toughest spot for the Amulet deck in the modern format. Opponents with abilities to interact with your lands, that's really what's going to set you back the most. Tron does not have the quickest closing speed of decks in Modern, but Stone Rain on Bounce Land, you saw right there, it was the difference between Pulliam's ability to pay for